McDonald's is a restaurant that is famous for serving hamburgers, fries, milkshakes, and other signature sandwiches that has made the fast food chain an icon since its creation in 1948. There are over 38,000 McDonald's restaurants in over 100 countries worldwide. McDonald's takes on the task of serving 69 million people around the world daily. And since the restaurant's existence, 1 out of every 8 Americans have worked at a McDonald's. The history of McDonald's, it starts in the early 1900s with 2 brothers, Maurice, also known as Mac McDonald, born November 26, 1902, and Richard McDonald, as most people called him Dick McDonald, born February 16, 1909, to Patrick and Marguerite McDonald. Along with their parents and their 3 sisters, Mac and Dick McDonald were part of a poor family of Irish immigrants who found a place to settle in rural New Hampshire. Their father, Patrick, who worked in a shoe factory, worked in the factory for 42 years until he was laid off with no pension, which led to the McDonald brothers realizing that their area in New Hampshire didn't have much for them that would make a decent living or a great life. The McDonald brothers at a very early age focused on being millionaires. Richard McDonald at 8 years old, determined to be rich, told his father that he was going to be a millionaire. 1926, with the help of a distant relative working in Hollywood, California at the time, Mac McDonald then decided to pack his bags and head west. The distant relative had connections with the booming movie industry and said he could hook the brothers up with jobs. Dick McDonald, after graduating high school in 1927, also moved to Hollywood to be with his brother and work on their dreams. Now living in Hollywood, the freshly implanted New Hampshire brothers worked as handymen, truck drivers, and set movers at Columbia Movie Studios on sets of various silent films at the time. They realized after getting paid $25 a week that it wasn't going to be enough to become the millionaires that they dreamed of being, and the fact that there was no future in the work that the brothers were doing as well. They decided to save as much money as they could and find a way to still stay in the movie business.
Oh, I'm happy here.
Even though they were trying to save money,
would be really
the McDonald
cool.
brothers were still pretty much flat and broke.
See
And
one.
in 1930, they were hearing talks from other people in the film industry, and what these people were talking about was a ran-down movie theater about 20 miles outside of Los Angeles, California, called Mission Theater. With the combination of slow business and hardly making a profit, if any at all, the owner of the Mission Theater wanted to be out on the lease. So the brothers approached the owner of the Mission Theater and they said, "Look, we don't have any money, but we will take on the lease, and if we happen to make money later on down the road, we'll sit down and we'll figure out a deal." And so that's how the McDonald brothers wound up running a movie theater. The Mission Theater had the capacity to seat 750 moviegoers, and the brothers also installed a snack bar as well. In 1931, the McDonald brothers then opened up the theater with a new name, the Beacon. As the Beacon opened up in the first couple years of the Great Depression that was due to the major stock market crash of 1929, business was slow, and it was just enough to keep things operating throughout the early to mid-1930s. With the brothers putting all of their money into the theater and not too much of any profit coming from it, they were always behind on monthly bills to keep the theater running. In extreme times, with the fears that the theater was going to be foreclosed on, the brothers buried their silver in the backyard. Since this was in the middle of the Great Depression, a lot of the other area businesses around the Beacon Theater weren't making that much money either. The brothers noticed, though, when they'd opened up the front doors to the theater and looked outside, they saw that this root beer and hot dog stand on the corner was getting a lot of customers all the time. So after 7 years of running a movie theater, the McDonald brothers saw that food sold a lot more than movie tickets. So the Beacon Theater was sold off, and the McDonald brothers used the money from the sale of the Beacon to set their sights into getting into the food business. In 1937, the brothers at this time then opened a food stand called the Air Dome. It was an octagon-shaped food stand near the Monrovia Airport along Route 66. Hot dogs were the first things that were sold at the Air Dome, and then later hamburgers were added at the cost of 10 cents each, along with all-you-could-drink orange juice for 5 cents. Now, why all-you-can-drink orange juice? Well, they lived in an orange grove town, and there was an ample supply of oranges, so they had enough oranges to be able to supply all-you-could-drink orange juice. Being located in a town where the biggest appeal of the town was the racetrack, the brothers made quite a lot of business during the racing season, but as soon as the season was over, business got really slow. In 1940, due to the slow season being a factor, the McDonald brothers wanted to get away from their current location and move somewhere else, but they needed the money. So they looked to a bunch of different banks to try to get loans here and there, and almost every bank denied them except the Bank of America, which then granted the McDonald brothers $5,000. So with the $5,000 loan in hand, the two brothers moved the entire food stand 45 miles east to a working-class town with a population of 100,000 called San Bernardino, California. And with this move came a huge overhaul of the menu with a total of 25 items, which was made of mostly barbecue and also a new name, turning the food stand's name from the Air Dome to McDonald's Barbecue. The McDonald brothers didn't know anything about making barbecue, but after a few days of someone showing them the ropes of working a barbecue pit, they were set and they were on their way. Now at this period in time, drive-ins were a huge thing, very, very popular, and so McDonald's Barbecue was set on a corner lot with drive-in service. So at this point, this is when things started booming for the McDonald brothers, as they were making $40,000 a year from McDonald's Barbecue. That's roughly about $700,000 in today's money. Now, there are two demographics of customers who usually frequented a drive-in. There were the teenagers to the young men in their 20s who were only there to flirt with the younger women who worked as car hops. And then there were also the working-class families just wanting a cheap meal. And the McDonald brothers saw that the young working families were more of what they wanted to serve, more than the rowdy teenagers that were just there wasting time. A fun little fact about the McDonald's Barbecue Drive-In is that the old uniforms from the Beacon Theater were reused by the car hops to wear while they were working. Even though the car hop business was a success, the McDonald brothers wanted to see more growth and were making plans for remodeling the business. As World War II ended, and in America approaching a new age based on how fast things could be serviced or food could be prepared, they realized they needed a quicker way to serve food. The brothers looked at the car hops, and they saw them as slow and unreliable, and they spent a lot of time flirting with the customers in order to get larger tips. They also looked at the menu and tallied up what sold the most, and what they realized from all of the barbecue sandwiches and everything else, it was the hamburgers that made the large part of the sales. So based on the large number of sales and how hamburgers were easily able to cook and make, they laid out their ideas, and in October of 1948 closed down their drive-in to redesign this new version of the restaurant. Looking for full efficiency, they looked at how the Ford Model T was built with the Ford assembly line and turned their kitchen and cooking area to much like an assembly line. While construction and renovations were underway, the sign out front of the San Bernardino location read, "Closed for alterations. The first one in America. The Drive-In Hamburger Bar. Owned and operated by McDonald Brothers." Dropping the word barbecue from their name, and now simply going by McDonald's, on December 12, 1948, the first McDonald's reopened to a fully new and redesigned look and feel. They dropped most of their menu items for a more simple menu, And this original menu consisted of 6 items: hamburgers, cheeseburgers, potato chips, coffee, soft drinks, and apple pie. The 20 car hops were eliminated, which meant no waiting staff, and orders were taken and food was served at the counter, as there were self-serve areas with condiments and napkins and trash cans where customers could dispose of their own trash. Much like the past food stands the McDonald brothers had, this one also had no dining area and relied on the people driving up, getting out, and ordering from the counter. Along with all of these designs also came a mascot, a chubby man with a hamburger head with a chef's hat, and his name was Speedy, to represent the restaurant's quick service. As these redesigns and cuts happened, this made McDonald's able to sell their burgers for half as much as any other restaurant. A lot of people around this time thought the McDonald brothers were crazy for switching up their whole design of their restaurant. And at first, the customers really weren't that happy about the new restaurant. They would drive up, honk their horns and flash their lights, waiting for a car hop to come out, and then they just leave when they realized no one was going to come out. The first month of business for McDonald's was pitiful. It was just sad. It got so bad that they would have employees park their cars in front of the McDonald's to give it the look that there was a lot of people eating there and business was booming. The first couple months, with all their tactics to try to draw people in, it still failed. The brothers started talking to each other and said, hey, you know what, maybe this ain't gonna work out. Maybe let's just go back to barbecue in the drive-in. But as fate would have it, they decided to keep going with this idea. After about 3 months of being in business, they started to collect a few customers here and there. These consisted of cab drivers, sales clerks, and construction workers. And they liked eating at McDonald's because they loved the quickness and they could get their food and not have to wait so long while they're on their lunch break from their jobs. There was another factor that started making McDonald's take off, is that the younger customers, the kids and teenagers, thought it was a neat idea to be able to order food themselves and get their order and carry their trays of food around and do things for themselves. All this slow but gradual collection of customers, it became a massive hit in the area to the point where the McDonald brothers were pulling in $100,000 a year. So we're at 1949, and potato chips on the menu are now replaced with French fries, and apple pies are now replaced with milkshakes. Instead of food taking 20 minutes to be served on, say, a lunch break or dinner, it took only 1 minute instead. 1952, McDonald's was featured in American Restaurant magazine with a picture of the restaurant stating, quote, "The most revolutionary development in the restaurant industry in the past 50 years. With this article in the magazine, people from all over the United States came to try out McDonald's. The McDonald brothers realized that the old octagon-shaped food stand was needing a special, unique look. Dick McDonald was looking at different shapes of buildings that other food stands had, and he really wasn't satisfied. He saw most of them as scrawny and small. And when he looked at the house he lived in with the big columns in the front, he drew up an idea of the restaurant with 4 columns, and then he said, that looks terrible. And then he made one with an arch going parallel with the building. And then he realized, hey, that didn't look too bad. And then he drew 2 arches running along each side of the building, and then he realized that that look gave the building a lot of flair. After interviewing at least 4 different architects together, the brothers hired Stanley Clark Meston to work together to design a new building for McDonald's. Meston, with his assistant Charles Fish, found various ways to improve efficiency. They even drew out the exact measurements of every single piece of equipment they had in the kitchen in the tennis court in the backyard of the McDonald brothers' house. Besides the improvements, they gave McDonald's a more unique look compared to the other restaurants, as it had red and white tile, along with stainless steel, colorful sheet metal, large panes of glass, white, red, yellow, and green neon lights that pulsed, and most of all, 2 25-foot yellow arches made of sheet metal with neon trim. And even during the early stages of design, they called these two arches the Golden Arches. During the process of looking at how faster burgers could be made, the brothers looked at which condiments were used the most. As workers making the burgers at the time were using a wooden spoon to put condiments on 3 or 4 burgers at a time, it was a problem, and Dick McDonald needed to find a way to solve it. So, as a kid, he remembered having peppermint patties and realized how every single peppermint patty had the same amount every single time. So he went to a candy factory posing as a writer, saying he was going to do a story about the candy factory to figure this out. A woman at the candy factory took him to a marble table where they made peppermint patties and showed Dick this metal cone with a hole at the bottom with a stick inside, that whenever you'd lift the stick for a certain amount of time, that was the way everything came out evenly. Dick McDonald knew that this was the key for the mustard and ketchup being added to the burgers. He then came back and asked a machinist that did experimental work for the McDonald brothers if he could find a way to make a funnel that would give the right amount each time, because if the stick was lifted too much, there'd be more, the same as if it was lifted less, which in turn would give less of the condiment. So he figured the best way was to make a trigger to make the condiment dispenser give the right amount every time. Still, as Richard McDonald's dream of becoming a millionaire by 50 years old was still a bit off, they started getting into franchising the Golden Arch design and the system. By May 1953, Neil Fox, who owned a string of gas stations up and down the coast of California, he became the first franchisee, opening his McDonald's with the Golden Arches design in Phoenix, Arizona. Later, a second franchisee was from Neil Fox's brother-in-law, Roger Williams and Bud Landon. Williams and Landon opened their McDonald's August 18, 1953 in Downey, California. This location is known as the oldest surviving McDonald's, as it stayed true to its original look and it's never had to comply with any changes from the McDonald's Corporation created by Ray Kroc, because this was franchised out by the McDonald brothers. So they were under a totally different contract, so this is the oldest authentic looking McDonald's from back in the day. As they knew their restaurant was going to be big, they wanted to quit franchising and build McDonald's restaurants up and down the coast of California. But after looking at this non-franchise way of doing things, the brothers realized that they would have to take care of all of these restaurants themselves, and it'd be a lot more trouble than it was worth. The brothers then hired a franchise agent, Bill Tansey, and he sold 21 franchises, and from these franchise sales, 9 more McDonald's restaurants opened. But then Bill ran into some health problems and had to pull out of helping McDonald's. Now, as many people who have any amount of an idea of who Ray Kroc is, you know we really can't tell the history of McDonald's unless he is brought into the picture. So, at this point, Ray Kroc, he was the exclusive salesman of the Multi-Mixer. And the Multi-Mixer is a milkshake mixer that can mix 5 milkshakes at once. So as he noticed in his sales that McDonald's had ordered 8 Multi-Mixers for one restaurant, he flew out to visit the McDonald's to see how they were running things, and he was truly impressed. So now we're going to dig into Ray Kroc's life and give a brief but really not so brief history of Ray Kroc, from his beginnings to where he was in life at this point, and from here on out, McDonald's will then skyrocket into what it is today, all because of Ray Kroc. Raymond Al Kroc was born on October 5th, 1902, to the couple Louis and Rose Kroc, which Louis immigrated to the United States from the Czech Republic. Louis Kroc loved baseball and worked for Western Union since the age of 12, ultimately becoming the superintendent. Ray's mother Rose, who was born in the United States, was a housewife and taught piano lessons. As Ray Kroc grew up in Oak Park, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago, Illinois, Ray learned how to play the piano from his mother's lessons, which led him to play the organ at his church. He also enjoyed playing baseball with his friends and working odd jobs at grocery stores, and later having a lemonade stand outside of his parents' house. Between 8th grade and the first year of high school, Ray worked at his uncle's drugstore, and he learned how to make people more comfortable with a smile and a friendly salesman conversation, and making people purchase more food than they originally came in for. Attending high school in Oak Park, Illinois, Ray grew to be highly intelligent. Not the type that would study and find books entertaining, but Ray was always imagining things and thinking of a way to make them happen. As he had a lot of confidence in himself, he was superior during debates at school, as he was always able to convince anyone to see his point of view. In the summer of 1916, when Ray was 14 years old, he saved up all the money he made from working other jobs, and him and his two friends all put in $100 each and opened up a music shop, and they sold sheet music along with small instruments like ocarinas and ukuleles. Ray would dress up in a sharp suit to impress the ladies passing by, hoping to draw them in to sell some sheet music that he'd play on the piano. But after a few months with little to no sales, Ray and his two friends cut their losses, sold their remaining stock to a larger music store, and split. Between sophomore and junior year of high school, Ray sold coffee beans along with a few other things and realized he was done with school and dropped out. As the United States had entered World War I at this time, everyone was talking about going over and helping the cause. Ray knew that that's where he wanted to be. He lied about his age to get into and join the Red Cross, signing up as an ambulance driver to be shipped overseas. While in training at the camp in Connecticut, he came across another kid who lied about his age to get in. Everyone in the training camp saw this kid as kinda odd, because when everybody else would be out in their off time, he would stay back at the camp and just keep drawing. He was none other than Walter Elias, or as most people know him as, Walt Disney. And as Walter got assigned to learn how to repair motors and drive cars on rough terrain, he wound up getting influenza and was sent home. Ray Kroc, however, he never got to be sent overseas, as the war ended before he was assigned. Then he was just sent back home to Chicago, where he went back to school, only to drop out and start working in the real world instead. In 1919, Ray, now 17 years old, by the request of his parents, went back to school, but then dropped out again after one semester, and he started selling ribbon novelties and playing piano. And fun fact, he once played at a brothel, and if you read his book, Grinding It Out, the one woman he describes in that book is just, the way he describes her is just hilarious. I definitely recommend checking the book out. In the summer of 1919, Ray gave up selling ribbon novelties, and he started playing in a band at Paw Paw Lake at a popular summer resort called Edgewater. Along the lake were hotels and businesses that would have visitors that would come over to Edgewater's pavilion to attend dances and see the band play. This is when Ray met his future wife, Ethel Fleming. She was the daughter of an owner of one of the hotels near the lake. When Ray and Ethel first met, they hit it off perfectly, and after that they were inseparable. Early 1920, Ray's father got a promotion at his job to work for ADT, and with this new job, the Kroc family had to move to New York. Ray was wanting to marry Ethel, and he didn't want to move, but he wound up moving anyways to New York, and he worked the cashier's cage at the Wooster Thomas office. And one morning, Ray shows up for work, and he sees that the office is boarded up, and there's a posting stating that it had gone bankrupt. Ray, out of a job, and happy to have a reason to go back home, Ray left to go back to Chicago, and his family followed soon after as they realized they weren't really happy in New York. 1922, Ray, ready to marry Ethel, his father gave him some advice that if he wanted to marry a woman, then he better have a steady job. So Ray looked, and he saw that these things were preventing infection during the Great American Flu epidemic of 1918, and they were quite innovative and getting more popular. So he got into selling paper cups, and after getting hired at the Lily Tulip Paper Cup Company, Ray Kroc and Ethel Fleming got married. 1923, Ray, now 21 years old, being very personable with his customers and always checking up on them, it led him to be the top salesman for Lily Tulip. And at this time, Ray, young and hard-working, he really started showing how much of a hard worker he was. He'd be waking up early every morning, and by 7 a.m. he'd be hitting the soda fountains in the area, and then by 5:30 p.m. he would go to his other job for radio station WGES, which had a studio in a hotel a few blocks away from where Ray and Ethel lived. During the evenings, Ray would play the piano at the radio station from 6 to 8, leave to go home and get dinner, and then come back to the station to play from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Go home, then by 7 a.m., he'd be back out on the street selling paper cups. This nearly around-the-clock schedule of work started to strain the relationship between Ray and his wife Ethel. Things got less tense, though, when Ray started getting time off on Saturdays to spend with his wife. October 1924, Ray and Ethel had their first and only child, a baby girl named Marilyn. Spring 1925, Ray struck up a friendly chat with the owner of a German restaurant about cars. Ray wound up getting the account to sell cups to this restaurant, and this made Ray enough money to buy a new Ford Model T right off the lot. Now, during the cold winters in Chicago, this made the paper cup business slow down. And at this time, Ray saw real estate in Florida booming, almost comparable to the gold rush. So Ray, taking a chance at it, was granted a 5-month leave of absence and moved to Florida. Ray quickly found a job selling real estate for W.F. Lorang and Son.
He keeps saying,
Ray was legitimate,
there was
but
never
the
any
boom
talk
seemed
of romancing
too good to be
or
true.
romanticizing.
As the boom
No,
ended
Thomas,
and suddenly
you
business
claim
went to a complete
that
stop.
Pavano
Now freshly
was
out of the real
in
estate
love
business,
with you.
I don't
Ray
know
thought
how
of
many
going back to
people he
Chicago,
stated that I was in
but
love
someone
with. There
overheard
was
him messing with a
quite a
piano
few.
in his house and got him into playing in the Willard Robinson Orchestra. After a while of playing in the nightclub, Ray was making $110 a week, which got Ray to rent out a much larger apartment for his wife and his sister-in-law. As this was the time of prohibition on alcohol, and the nightclub Ray played at illegally served alcohol, it eventually got busted from cops getting past security too quick before people could hide their drinks. Everyone, including Ray, got thrown in jail. 3 hours later, though, Ray was released and took a look at his life in Florida. And his wife at this point was homesick, and his sister-in-law was dating a man and living her own life in Florida. So Ray and Ethel and their daughter Marilyn headed back to Chicago. 1927, Ray chucked playing the piano on the side to make some extra money, and he focused solely on selling paper cups for Lily Tulip, and he started selling smaller paper cups to street vendors and larger cups to concession stands at beaches and zoos, everywhere you could think of. In 1930, Ray putting in hard work selling paper cups, he snagged a deal selling paper cups to the Walgreen Drug Company. And after snagging this account, Ray went on to get other larger business accounts as well. And through the 1930s, even with the economic depression at an all-time high, Ray was so successful at selling paper cups that he was able to buy a brand new Buick, hire a secretary, and also have a live-in maid at his home. In 1932, Kroc was surrounded by all kinds of things that were growing and showing up everywhere as he sold paper cups. And one of the things that he saw were these little stone castles all over the state of Illinois. These castles were set up by an engineer and a customer of Ray Kroc's, Earl Prince. Prince called these ice cream shops Prince Castle Ice Cream Parlors. In Michigan, Ray had another customer who was making a new form of milkshake that was a lot thicker and colder. It was a more frozen style of milkshake that wasn't as runny as the milkshakes at the time. Walter Fredenhagen owned the Prince Castles in Ray Kroc's area. Ray mentioned this new form of milkshake to Walter, but Walter said it was, just another thing that he just didn't want to deal with. Ray, he finally convinced Walter and Earl Prince to check out the milkshakes in Michigan. After the two saw the milkshakes for themselves, they knew they had to start their own version of the thicker and colder milkshake. As they set out to make their version of this milkshake, they realized that the one-spindle mixers would always burn out as they would repeatedly be making milkshakes. And that's when Earl Prince invented the multi-mixer. It was a milkshake mixer with 6 spindles that could make 6 milkshakes at once. It was originally 6 spindles, but then over time, they were realizing messes happened when there was 6. It was just too much, so they cut it down to 5 spindles instead, and that's what became the standard. Ray was ecstatic to show off the multi-mixer to Lily Tulip Cup Company, and they loved it, and they signed a contract for Sanitary Cup and Service Corporation to be the exclusive distributor of the multi-mixer. But when Lily Tulip headquarters in New York caught wind of this, they frowned upon it, stating that they were only a paper cup company. That was it, nothing more. Ray Kroc being disappointed about this, Earl Prince told Ray that he should just quit Lily Tulip and work for him exclusively selling the multi-mixer. But there was still the contract that Lily Tulip had with Sanitary Cup for the multi-mixer. Kroc angrily yelled, and his boss worked out a deal finally where they would own 60% of Prince Castle sales and Kroc would own 40%. 1938, sales were pretty slow for the multi-mixers starting out, but all the while still Ray was thinking of a way to get the 60% of ownership from Sanitary Cup and inevitably end up having full ownership. Ray had a small office in Chicago. The secretary did most of the office work as Ray was always out traveling and trying to sell the multi-mixer to every soda fountain and restaurant that he could. In 1940, after 2 years of selling the multi-mixer, and it was slowly gaining some steam, Ray thought it was time to own it completely. His old boss replied $68,000 in cash. Ray increased his mortgage to be able to pay the $12,000 in cash up front, and his boss let him pay the rest of the $56,000 off over 5 years, plus interest. With his choice of work and getting into this debt, this only worsened the marriage between Ray and Ethel. It was probably the worst time to take on this debt because in December 1941, the United States entered World War II and there was a restriction on the use of copper. With copper needed to wind motors for the multi-mixers, and Earl Prince unable to come up with any other inventions that didn't have restrictions, Ray found himself out of work, but he quickly found a new job selling malted milk powder in paper cups called Malta-Plenty. Late 1941 until the end of the war in 1945, Ray selling Malta-Plenty was able to keep his life afloat and also continue paying off his debt to Lily Tulip, to now he had full ownership of Prince Castle Sales in 1945. As business boomed after the war, Ray was pushing his multi-mixers to Tasty Freezes, Dairy Queens, and A&W root beer drive-ins. The late 1940s were great years for Ray, selling on average 5,000 multi-mixers a year, and one year selling 8,000 multi-mixers at $150 a piece. Early 1950s, though, Ray's sales were starting to look threatened as Walgreens drugstores stated that they were removing soda fountains from their stores. Many more places soon followed as this was the time when suburbia was growing, and as soda fountains were popular in the cities, they were less and less frequented, and this caused Ray's customers to start dwindling down. Competition from other companies selling their version of multi-mixers didn't help either. So as the multi-mixer was looking like it was going to hit a dead end soon, Ray was looking for a new and innovative product to sell that would have the same great effect just like the multi-mixer had. Ray thought he had something when one of his salesmen turned him to his neighbor who had built a kitchen table with benches that would fold up into the wall. They called it the Fold-A-Nook. It soon turned out, though, that the salesman who turned Ray onto it was trying to con him in some kind of way, and this made Ray fire him along with not pursuing the Fold-A-Nook anymore. So, 1954, while Ray was on the hunt trying to find the next big thing that he could sell, he kept getting calls here and there asking about those mixers that the McDonald brothers have. After these calls and hearing a bit more buzz, Ray looked up the orders from this one restaurant in San Bernardino and seen that they ordered multi-mixers in bulk. It shocked him when he saw that the one store alone, this McDonald's restaurant, needed 8 multi-mixers. So Ray, wondering why a restaurant would need so many multi-mixers, he decided to fly out to this place. He got to San Bernardino early in the morning, right before the McDonald's opened. He passed by it and saw it was just a small drive-in. No seats inside, and customers had to walk up to the window to order. Ray watched as the first cars pulled up, which were the workers, as they got ready to open up the McDonald's. The workers were all dressed up in clean-cut white button-down shirts and white pants, wearing paper hats. Some getting the kitchen ready, and the others heading to the back storage area, running up sacks of potatoes on carts. A combination of Ray seeing the uniforms and all these people working efficiently impressed him right away. When 11 a.m. hit, McDonald's opened for business for the day, and people started filling in and lining up almost instantly. Customers who had gotten their food were eating it like crazy. It was insane for Ray to see how much the people were eating up the food. At this time, most drive-ins had the motorcycle and teenager, rough and tumble kind of crowd, but McDonald's had this family-oriented image, which Ray also liked. Looking at the people lining up and the others in the parking lot eating their food in their cars, Ray chatted up with some of the customers, and he found out that most people liked McDonald's because of their fries and hamburgers, how great they tasted, and also that most of their food was about half as much as any other restaurant. When the crowds finally died down around 2:30 p.m., Ray then approached Mac and Dick McDonald, and they were more than happy to talk to Ray. The brothers referred to Ray as Mr. Multi-Mixer. This conversation led to a dinner that night where Ray learned how the system of the restaurant worked step by step and how to prepare the food on its menu and its prices. Cheeseburgers were 19 cents, hamburgers were 15 cents, soft drinks were 10 cents, milkshakes 20 cents, and coffee was 5 cents. After the dinner, the brothers took Ray to see the architect who was working on the new design of the McDonald's. This new design had yellow arches and neon lights. Croc in the back of his mind saw that there was a few flaws with it, but yet again he was still amazed. After the dinner, and Ray was back in his hotel room, laying in bed, he was sitting there thinking of having McDonald's restaurants coast to coast in the country. More importantly, each of these restaurants having 8 multi-mixers in each one, which in turn would make him rich. At this point, Croc had no intentions of owning McDonald's. He was just thinking of expanding McDonald's restaurants so he could sell more multi-mixers. So here we have Ray Kroc. He's 52 years old. He's suffering from a slew of different health problems, from diabetes to arthritis. He realized that the multi-mixer sales were dwindling and he had to do something about this. Seeing McDonald's and how well they were doing, he had to find some way to make something happen. So the next day, Ray showed back up to McDonald's and he studied how the burgers were grilled and more importantly how the French fries were made, as they were the best fries that he and everyone else eating at McDonald's had ever had. After the lunch rush on the second day, Ray and the 2 McDonald brothers were in the McDonald brothers' office, and Ray gave this big speech about how McDonald's is a gold mine and they needed to strike and get more restaurants out there. After Ray gave this big enthusiastic speech, it was met with dead silence. Mac McDonald broke the silence and told Ray that they liked the way they were living, and they didn't intend to complicate things by opening up even more McDonald's restaurants, as it would just give them more headaches than anything. Ray then replied back to the McDonald brothers saying that they didn't have to deal with it if they were to hire somebody to take care of the running and open up the new places for them. The McDonald brothers then asked Ray who would want to bother doing that. Ray looked at himself and he said, "I could." So after this meeting, Ray was back on a plane heading towards Chicago with a signed contract from the McDonald brothers to be their franchise agent. The McDonald brothers and Ray's contract was that it was $1,900 for the franchise fee, along with Ray Kroc getting 1.9% of gross sales of any franchises he brought on board, and the McDonald brothers would get 0.5% of the gross sales. At home, the McDonald's contract put more ice on Ray and Ethel's marriage, as Ray was now focusing almost 100% into McDonald's, which he had to in order to make a living for his family. In 1955, Ray started working as the franchise agent for McDonald's and having the exclusive rights to sell the McDonald Brothers method, and with that, he founded the McDonald's System Incorporated. On April 15, 1955, with the help of a friend Art Jacobs, Ray went in 50-50 with Art to build their McDonald's in the Chicago suburb of Des Plaines, Illinois, 7 minutes away from Ray's home. The first year of Ray's McDonald's was filled with kinks, even during the building process when he needed a basement in the McDonald's in which the original blueprints of McDonald's didn't have. From temperature problems to keeping the store well ventilated, to the fries not coming out like the ones that Ray had tried at the McDonald Brothers store, there was all kinds of problems. So after 3 months, Ray had his own system down of having fans on the potatoes to make sure that the fries came out like they should. So dealing with these problems, after building the restaurant, Ray was made aware of 2 things after the agreement was done. One was that the brothers had sold the name McDonald's to 10 other stores in California and Arizona. The areas with those McDonald's stores were off limits, but the rest of the United States to franchise out stores were all Ray's. And the second thing is that the McDonald brothers sold the franchise rights of McDonald's in Cook County, Illinois, where Ray's McDonald's was located, to an ice cream company. So Ray had to buy out the rights from the company for $25,000. $20,000 more than what the ice cream company had originally bought it for. Ray struggled to get the money together, but luckily he still had money generated from Prince Castle sales. So this is what ruffled the feathers between Ray and the McDonald brothers, as the brothers never mentioned to Ray that they sold the rights to the ice cream company prior. So we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit. Let's go back to about a month after Ray opened his McDonald's. May 1955 saw Harry Sonneborn come into the fold. He had recently resigned as vice president of finance for Tastee-Freez, which Harry had ordered multi-mixers from Ray before while working at Tastee-Freez. He noticed how Ray had a good thing going with his McDonald's and called Ray wanting to be a part of it. Ray knew that he needed help franchising McDonald's, but he was spread thin and he knew he couldn't afford anybody. Regardless, Harry met Ray in Ray's office. Harry, 39 years old at the time, walked in standing at 6 feet tall, lanky, but disciplined and serious. As they discussed the high risks of franchising on a larger scale, Ray told Harry at the end of the meeting that he couldn't afford to hire him. Harry then said he'll figure out the lowest amount he could take as a salary to support his family and bring it to Ray, hoping to be hired. When Harry came back, he told Ray he could work for $100 a week. Harry was hired on the spot as executive. With his knowledge of the ins and outs of everything legal and financial, he became a valuable asset to McDonald's. Ray looked at McDonald's as a family-friendly place, so he made sure franchises would not have payphones, jukeboxes, or vending machines, which would create an environment where people would hang out longer than it would take for them to eat their meals and leave. By the end of 1955, Kroc opened 2 more McDonald's locations, which grossed $235,000 in sales. At every location, Ray used the McDonald Brothers format and also used the motto, "If you have time to lean, you have time to clean," to all of his workers, including himself, to make sure the restaurants were cleaned spotlessly. 1956, 8 McDonald's restaurants were opened, and Ray wanted the franchise to be more than just a name that all kinds of different people used. He wanted to make sure that every McDonald's was the same. So basically, a McDonald's in Chicago would have the same exact food and appearance as it would in New York City or in Santa Claus, Indiana. Ray realized that he had to make a development business where all the McDonald's would be under one marketing program nationwide. But for all of that to happen, hiring people to supervise and make sure each store operated smoothly took money. So the solution for the money problem and to get this ball rolling, it was all thought up by Harry Sonneborn with the Franchise Realty Corporation. It was designed only to hold McDonald's real estate, and this company signed leases and mortgages for the land and buildings, passing the cost onto the franchisee with a 20 to 40% markup, and with this they lowered the franchise fee to $950. Franchise Realty started with $1,000 up front, and Harry turned it into $170 million worth of real estate. This became the biggest decision financially in McDonald's history, which has made the restaurant to be as big as it is, as the same model is still in place today. So as this happened, Ray, Harry, and the secretary June worked like crazy around the clock in these early years, feeding this baby of a restaurant to grow into the giant that it was destined to become. With Franchise Realty up and running, needing someone that could handle corporate operations, Ray thought back to a 23-year-old Fred Turner. Fred was part of a family group wanting to be a franchisee, and while Fred was waiting for his family group to figure out where they'd want to put their McDonald's, Fred took up Ray's offer to learn how McDonald's operated at Ray's Des Plaines store. Right away, Fred was a natural leader, making sure all things clicked in the store. When the family group fell through and a franchise store wasn't built, Fred was then sent to be a manager at the McDonald's in Chicago. And as soon as McDonald's needed somebody to handle operations, Fred was pulled by Ray to work for his newly appointed position. January 1957, Fred Turner started work on operations of all McDonald's stores for $475 a month. And throughout this time, Ray and Harry were butting heads a lot, but both still shared the same dream of making McDonald's huge. Harry, the more scholar and analytical, and Ray, the more enthusiastic and people-pleasing type. June Martino, the secretary, had to be the cushion between the two to keep McDonald's from imploding. Meanwhile, Fred Turner had figured out the best shape and size of the hamburger patty. 1/10 of a pound, 19% fat content, all beef, and no fillers. By 1958, there were 34 McDonald's restaurants, and Fred Turner was handling all of the food and supply purchasing for McDonald's. 1959, the first McDonald's location in Hawaii opens up in Honolulu. Harry Sonneborn became the president and CEO of McDonald's. And also, they ran into trouble as one man planning to be a franchisee started building McDonald's stores on land he didn't have the titles for. There's not much more info on the man and what happened to him, but Ray, who at the time had a net worth of $90,000, was having to borrow $400,000 to pay the mess left behind from this man. So after this $400,000 ordeal, Ray got the idea to build 10 McDonald's stores ran strictly by the company, and through Sonneborn, 3 insurance companies came forward to lend $1.5 million. This lended money was in exchange for 22.5% of McDonald's stock. The money from these insurance companies made McDonald's grow like wildfire, and it gave the McDonald brothers back in California a nice chunk of change. In 1960, the first company store was opened in Columbus, Ohio. Ray wanted to bring in new ideas to further grow McDonald's, but due to his contract, he had to get any changes that he wanted done approved by the McDonald brothers. Ray was curious to see how the McDonald's stores in California were running, so he sent Fred Turner to check it out. Fred came back to report that the original San Bernardino location was the only real legit McDonald's. The other locations had the burgers and fries, but along with it they were serving pizza, and another one was serving burritos and enchiladas. The problem with this was all these extra menu items drug the quality of the hamburgers down, which in turn gave the other McDonald's restaurants a bad image. Ray brought it up to the brothers, but the brothers just brushed it off and really just didn't care. Ray wanted to be in control of all the McDonald's and the McDonald's brand. He was mad, but he couldn't do anything about it, so at the moment he just had to deal with it. August 30th, 1960, the 200th McDonald's location was opened in Knoxville, Tennessee, and the first Alaska McDonald's location opens in the city of Juneau. In 1961, in Minneapolis, Ray was having a dinner with a new franchisee, and Ray met a married woman who was playing the organ. This was Joni Smith, and he fell in love right away. And small world, because it just so happened that the franchisee was hiring Joni Smith's husband as the manager for his new McDonald's restaurant. Now, Ray being a married man, going to see the McDonald's in Minneapolis was a great excuse to see Joni. When Ray would visit Minneapolis, he'd make small talk with Joni, he'd play piano as she'd play organ, doing duets, and they'd spend a lot of time talking on the phone, long conversations at night, as Ray would tell Joni all of his big dreams about McDonald's and what the future could hold. During one of these long phone conversations, Ray proposed to Joni that they both should divorce from their significant others and get married. As Joan and Ray both felt the same way about each other, Ray put the ball in Joan's court and divorced Ethel right away. Through divorcing Ethel, Ray wound up giving Ethel the house, the car, all of the insurance, and $30,000 a year for life. The only thing that Ray kept was his share of McDonald's. To pay for all of the legal fees through the divorce, Ray wound up selling Prince Castle Sales for $150,000. Ray saw this as a small price to pay to be able to marry Joan and finally be happy. When Ray told Joan the news, Joan was happy, but Joan hit Ray with the bad news that she didn't divorce her husband and she needed more time to think about it. So Ray, with a change of plans of not marrying Joan right away, he focused all of his time into McDonald's even more. With Mac McDonald's health declining and Dick McDonald wanting to retire, Ray was now determined more than ever, and he was also tired of always having to go through the McDonald brothers for approval of anything at all. So Ray asked the brothers how much it would cost to buy them out completely. The brothers came up with a figure of $2.7 million in cash only. The brothers came up with this figure because $2.7 million meant both brothers would get $1 million each in cash after taxes. The obvious problem with this was that Ray didn't have $2.7 million in cash, so he asked the brothers to finance instead, but the brothers were adamant about the $2.7 million in cash only. So Ray needing cash to buy out the McDonald brothers, and the insurance companies that they got money from previously being tapped out, Ray and Harry found John Bristol. He was a financial advisor to various colleges and institutions, and that led them to get the money. So from 12 educational and other kinds of institutions, from Princeton University to Howard University to even the Ford Foundation, Ray got the $2.7 million to pay off the McDonald brothers and to be the sole owner of McDonald's. After the deal was done, Ray had the thought that the original San Bernardino location was his as well. The brothers went back on their deal, which was through a handshake agreement, and wound up keeping their original restaurant. Ray wanted this spot because it was a very popular spot and it drew a lot of money. It was a great location. And to not have it after paying the brothers off and owning the McDonald's brand, it got to him. Ray Kroc, not usually being a vengeful man, he went to the brothers and made it aware that he owned the name McDonald's. And the brothers were legally made to change the name of their restaurant, McDonald's, to the Big M instead. With Ray Kroc now completely owning McDonald's, the overall image of the restaurants kept some original things and brought in some new things as well. The early McDonald's mascot, Speedy, with the hamburger head, was cut, and a new McDonald's logo featuring the golden arches was brought in. On the business side of things, Ray made it to where a franchisee could only own one store at a time. This was done so no one owned one whole territory and gave Ray Kroc more control over McDonald's altogether. Ray also sold all the supplies to the restaurants at a decent price and made sure that every franchise was making a decent profit. So jumping out of the business side of things and back into Ray's personal life, later on in 1961, Joni called Ray after she thought it over, and she gave him the news that she couldn't go through with divorcing her husband. So after this, Ray packed his bags and he left Chicago for California. The first couple years in California for Ray were lonely, and he spent a lot of time in his house just filling it up with a bunch of stuff. It was at this point that he saw reports of the McDonald's stores, and he noticed that Joni and her husband opened their own McDonald's in Rapid City, South Dakota. Now bouncing back into the business side of things in Ray's life, which he had plenty to keep his mind occupied, as there was a franchisee in Cincinnati who was having problems selling on Fridays, as the city had a huge population of Catholics who at the time couldn't eat meat on Fridays. The competing restaurant in town, Big Boy, had a fish sandwich on Fridays that got all of the business. So this franchisee mentioned that they should also serve a fish sandwich at McDonald's. Ray didn't like this idea at first, but he was okay with it after he was able to settle with what kind of fish would be served. And after an employee added a slice of cheese to the sandwich, it just set it off completely, and Ray gave this fish sandwich the green light to be served. And Ray named this sandwich the Filet-O-Fish. So Ray, looking at this idea of having a sandwich with no meat in it, he wanted to give the Filet-O-Fish some friendly competition. So Ray came up with the Hula Burger. And the Hula Burger was a piece of grilled pineapple with 2 slices of cheese on a bun. So starting on Good Friday in 1962, in select locations, the Hula Burger and the Filet-O-Fish were put on the menu. The results from the sales of the Hula Burger and the Filet-O-Fish on Good Friday were Filet-O-Fish 350 to the Hula Burger at just 6. Needless to say, the Hula Burger was taken off the menu shortly after. Also in 1962, just to stick it to the McDonald brothers, Ray Kroc built a McDonald's just a block away from their restaurant, the Big M. 1963, Ray fell in love with a woman by the name of Jane Green. She was a really sweet and kind woman who also worked as the secretary for the movie star John Wayne. Jane and Ray would go on dates to the point where it was almost every night, till just after 2 weeks of dating, they got married. 1963 also saw the new McDonald's mascot, in which he came in the form of a clown named Ronald McDonald, the Hamburger Happy Clown. He's known all around the world with bright red hair, wearing a yellow jumpsuit and red and white striped clothes underneath, and wearing big red clown shoes. He first appeared in 3 TV commercials, and his appearance in these early years were much different than now. The first incarnation had Ronald with mangy hair, wearing a tray of food on top of his head like a hat, and the face makeup was about the same with the red and white. These first commercials would be about Ronald McDonald bumping into kids and all of them going to McDonald's, as each of these commercials would end with Ronald McDonald skipping and jumping with cheerful music playing in the background. The origin story of Ronald McDonald is mildly disputed, as McDonald's never flat out said who created the character, but most evidence points to the man who first played Ronald McDonald, Willard Scott. Willard Scott played as Bozo the Clown on television from 1959 to 1962. Bozo the Clown was extremely popular at the time, and when Scott was done being Bozo in 1963, he claimed that McDonald's contacted him requesting to play as a Hamburger Happy Clown in 3 television commercials. The original Ronald McDonald look would last until 1966, when McDonald's hired circus performer Coco the Clown to redesign Ronald McDonald's image to his classic look that people see today. In 1965, Ray Kroc made himself president of McDonald's. Ray started expanding on McDonald's restaurants, focusing on opening new restaurants in the suburbs of large cities, close to where the majority of most people lived. In April 1965, McDonald's was getting huge, but as money came in, it kept going back out to feed the growth, and not much money for extra costs for other endeavors. So this was the factor into why they went public, selling shares of the company at $22.50 a piece. Also in 1965, this is when McDonald's switched from having employees cut potatoes to make French fries to using frozen French fries instead. And by the end of 1965, McDonald's had 700 restaurants in 44 states. And on Thanksgiving 1966, during the Macy's Day Parade, the new redesigned Ronald McDonald makes his television debut on the McDonald's float, featuring the McDonald's All-American Band. By the end of 1966, McDonald's saw Harry Sonneborn and Ray Kroc coming to a head, as Harry was having health problems and he was spending more time away from the office and more time with his wife in Alabama. Ray was wanting to keep pushing McDonald's and expand it even further than it already was. But Harry had other plans after talking to other financial buddies, and he thought a recession in the coming year would doom the company. So Harry put a suspension on all existing plans of constructing new McDonald's stores. At the McDonald's office, there was a rift. It was either you were Team Sonneborn or you were Team Kroc, in which this also didn't make the environment any better. After a few meetings and trying to deal with each other, it inevitably came to blows, and Harry Sonneborn resigned as president from McDonald's, and then he sold all of his stock in McDonald's, as he felt that it would be worth nothing come 1967, and after that, he moved to Alabama. Along with Harry Sonneborn leaving McDonald's, a few more executives on Harry's side left as well. Ray Kroc then took over as president and chairman of the board and took off the suspension and started constructing new McDonald's restaurants. Morale in the office was low, but it slowly got better. One person in particular who had really low morale was Fred Turner. But over dinner one night with Ray Kroc, Ray had told Fred that he will be president within the year, after Ray did some much-needed tying up of loose ends. January 1967, prices of hamburgers were raised from 15 cents to 18 cents. It was this year when one of the most famous sandwiches in all of history was created, the Big Mac. It was created by a franchisee from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Jim Delegati. The Big Mac consists of 2 beef patties, a special sauce, lettuce, pickles, American cheese, onions, and a 3-piece sesame seed bun. One for the top, one for the bottom, and a slim bun piece in the middle. First debuting in Delegati's Uniontown, Pennsylvania location, it sold for 45 cents and went under 2 different names that didn't work out. One name was the Aristocrat, which people had a hard time saying, and the other name was the Blue Ribbon Burger. It was then named Big Mac by a 21-year-old advertising secretary named Esther Rose. Sales of the Big Mac got huge, and by 1968, the Big Mac was sold in all McDonald's restaurants in the U.S. The Big Mac was introduced to the nation as a meal disguised as a sandwich. So, around this time in McDonald's history, Ray Kroc was being called the founder of McDonald's. And there's a lot of people that will say, well, the McDonald brothers are the founders of McDonald's. Not Ray Kroc. He came in and he stole it. Well, as you hear in this story, he didn't exactly steal it. He put himself in over his eyes in debt. but I do say that he is the founder of McDonald's as everyone knows it, as the world knows it today. He may have not founded how the food was prepared or the original concept, but he did found the McDonald's Corporation. And needless to say, if Ray Kroc never came across McDonald's, McDonald's would have never been as big as it is today. And speaking of the McDonald brothers, let's turn our sights over to them, as they were still running the Big M, but they lost so much business as Ray Kroc put up the McDonald's a block away. And this led to the McDonald brothers selling the Big M and quitting the food business for good. Mac McDonald wound up getting married, and Dick McDonald moved back to New Hampshire, and he married his childhood sweetheart after both being divorced from other people. And for the rest of their lives, neither Dick or Mac had any children of their own. Also in 1967, Canada opens its first McDonald's in Richmond, British Columbia, and the first McDonald's restaurant in a territory of the United States opens in San Juan, Puerto Rico. 1968, Fred Turner is appointed as president of McDonald's, and June Martino, the original McDonald's secretary, retires, and she leaves the company extremely rich as she kept her McDonald's stock and became an honorary director. Ray Kroc, after leaving the seat as president of McDonald's, was now chairman of the board and having time to spend elsewhere besides McDonald's 24/7. Ray Kroc's job now was thinking of new ways to develop the restaurant. He went to California to take things a little slower, and as fate would have things, it didn't get too calm as Ray was invited to a convention in San Diego to speak. Ray then noticed that Joan Smith, the woman he had an undying love for, was on the list of attendees. The night before the date he was scheduled to speak, Ray was driven to a dinner in his Rolls Royce. Seeing Joan again, Ray was just as excited to see her as he did when they first met, and they both wound up sitting next to each other at the table. After dinner, Ray invited people to his hotel suite to carry on the party. As Ray played piano and everybody had drinks, people slowly left to go to their rooms as the night went on. Even Joan's husband left early. By the end of the night, the only people left in the room were Ray, Joan, and Ray's driver Carl, as he was a safe buffer, making sure nothing scandalous happened. The three hung out, talking on and on, until Joan finally left. This meeting solidified Joan's readiness to divorce her husband and marry Ray. Ray's wife at the time, Jane, as she was a sweet and warm woman, Joni told Ray to let her down gently because she didn't deserve to be dealt with so coldly. Ray agreed, and through the divorce with Jane, Jane was given the house in Beverly Hills. McDonald's opens its 1,000th restaurant, and up until this point, the McDonald's logo was two yellow arches crisscrossing over each other with a diagonal line going through both arches. This changed with the diagonal line being taken out and both arches meeting in the center, resembling the McDonald's M logo that we all know today. And to close up 1968 in a really sweet way, Ray was looking for a dessert item for the McDonald's menu. He tried out strawberry shortcake, then he tried out pound cake, then he reached out to see if anyone had any ideas, and a franchisee in Knoxville, Tennessee had his mom's apple pie recipe of these tiny size fried turnover styled apple pies. They were crisp and golden all around with apple pie filling. Ray loved this idea, and the Knoxville location wound up being the supplier as it became a menu item across the entire United States by the 1970s. March 8, 1969, Ray Kroc and Joan Smith finally got married on a ranch home in Southern California that Ray had bought in 1965. June 1969, the look of all of the McDonald's changed from the stainless steel double arch buildings with the very limited seating inside to the brick and mansard roof look, which gave an expanded area for indoor seating that most McDonald buildings still look like today. Other fast food chains started popping up and copying the McDonald's method, which Ray would be mad about, and he'd explain that the other chains were gimmicks and didn't offer the same quality of food and affordable prices. Ray Kroc prided himself on having no soybean filler in the hamburgers, and that all the hamburgers were 100% real beef. And he made sure that the customers got their food in less than 5 minutes, or they get their money back. And by the end of 1969, McDonald's sold its 5 billionth hamburger. In 1970, the Shamrock Shake was first introduced to celebrate St. Patrick's Day in the United States, Canada, and Ireland. It was available leading up to and during the month of March, and today it's known as a mint-flavored shake with a green look. The story of how the Shamrock Shake was created is a bit of a mystery, as there's 2 different stories. Now, when I research for the history of things, I want to make sure I'm getting the right story, and sometimes I will come across a conflicting story, and I'll have to dig and dig and dig until I find which one is right and which one is wrong. But with the Shamrock Shake, both of these stories seem to have weight to them in one way or another. So let's go over each story, and I'm not going to tell you whether which one is true or which one isn't, because I couldn't figure it out myself. The first story is that McDonald's franchisee Hal Rosen wanted to have a product to sell during St. Patrick's Day, and he came up with the Mint Shamrock Shake in 1966. Then there's the second story, where the shake was created by Rogers Merchandising in Chicago, who was a client for McDonald's, and if this story is true, this is the one where McDonald's originally had lemon lime sherbet along with vanilla ice cream in to make the Shamrock Shake green. And if we're still going along with this story, in 1973 the lemon lime was taken out and it was just a vanilla shake with green coloring in it. Regardless, the first mentioning that I could find with the Shamrock Shake having mint flavoring in it was from a paper advertisement in 1979. And then in 1980, an ad stating new minty Shamrock Shakes and Shamrock Sundays, which the Shamrock Sunday was only available for the 1980 St. Patrick's Day season, and then after that it was discontinued due to poor sales. So nevertheless, by 1970, Shamrock Shakes were being sold at McDonald's. And then came McDonaldland, to where McDonald's hired an advertising group to create commercials to appeal to kids, more than just the simple Ronald McDonald spots. And what they came up with was McDonaldland, a fantasy land full of upbeat music with live-action characters that were always out to get some kind of food from McDonald's, such as the Hamburglar always trying to steal hamburgers. The McDonaldland-themed TV commercials carried on until 2003. And since being under new ownership when the McDonald brothers sold it off in 1968, the original McDonald's, now called the Big M, closes its doors for good. 1971, the first Australian location in Yagoona, New South Wales was opened, and McDonald's in Australia is known locally as Macca's. The first Asian McDonald's opened in the summer of 1971 in Japan in Tokyo's Ginza district. The first European McDonald's opens in Zaandam, Netherlands, and there was now a McDonald's in all 50 states of the United States of America. The first early version of the value meal was introduced in the form of the Big Meal that touted a meal including the Big Mac, a side of fries, and a soft drink. McDonald's also adopted the slogan, "You deserve a break today." Then a franchisee in Fremont, California, Al Bernardin, the man responsible for bringing frozen French fries to the attention of McDonald's, felt like there should be a burger on the menu that would have more meat to it. As he experimented in his restaurant's kitchen, he came up with the Quarter Pounder. He started selling them at his McDonald's using the slogan, "Today Fremont, tomorrow the world." By 1972, the Quarter Pounder was available on every McDonald's menu in the United States. Then, just after a year of it closing in 1970, the original San Bernardino McDonald's location was torn down. And as the year came to an end, Mac McDonald passed away from a heart attack on December 11, 1971, at the age of 69. By 1972, McDonald's was making $1 billion in sales yearly as America became more fast-paced and driven. McDonald's became the go-to place to get food while on the go. Then there was a franchise operator at the Santa Barbara, California McDonald's location and asked Ray Kroc to look into a new sandwich that they created, which wound up being the Egg McMuffin. It was a slice of Canadian bacon, a griddle fried egg that is cooked inside of a ring, and a slice of American cheese on a toasted and buttered English muffin. This gave Ray the idea to get into the breakfast food market with McDonald's, a food also going along with the coffee morning customers would always purchase. The first Egg McMuffin was served at the Belleville, New Jersey McDonald's in 1972. And as 1972 came to a close, Ray Kroc wanted to do more with himself, and by the end of the year he showed interest to buy the Chicago Cubs, but it didn't pan out. October 23, 1973, the first Swedish McDonald's restaurant opens in Stockholm. In 1974, Ray was looking at the San Diego area and realized how beautiful it was, so he looked into buying the San Diego Padres baseball team. Fortunately for Ray, the owner of the Padres was in financial trouble, and he was more than happy to sell the team off. Even though the San Diego Padres wasn't doing too hot at the time, Ray got deeply involved, from the team to the office staff to the food being served at the ballpark. He gave all of the workers for the team raises, even when they lost more games than they won. At one point, Ray was so disgusted about how poorly the Padres played that he jumped into the announcer's booth and apologized to everyone in the stadium of how bad they played. Even though Ray was hard on the team every once in a while, he still loved the whole experience. Then Ray went on to open the first Ronald McDonald House in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which was a home away from home for families of children in nearby hospitals getting treatment. Seeing rival restaurant Wendy's claiming to have their first modern drive-thru window in 1971, McDonald's opened its first drive-thru in 1975 in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Their goal was to have the order in and out in 50 seconds or less. 1976, the 4,000th McDonald's opened in Montreal, Canada. Ray also hired chef René Arend to make McDonald's food more nutritious and to help create new menu items. In 1977, Ray Kroc reassigned himself to the role of senior chairman, and his book and autobiography, Grinding It Out, The Making of McDonald's, is available in bookstores. Ray Kroc also celebrated his 75th birthday, where Harry Sonneborn and June Martino attended, and we're all happy to have met again after all the years and disagreements. Closing out 1977, McDonald's introduced their breakfast menu consisting of hotcakes, toasted English muffins, scrambled eggs, sausage, hash browns, danishes, and the Egg McMuffin. 1978, the 5,000th McDonald's restaurant opens in Kanagawa, Japan. So we're going to branch back a little bit and look at the history of the Happy Meal. So, during the mid-1970s, Yolanda Cofino ran a McDonald's with her husband in Guatemala and created what she called Menu Ronald. The Menu Ronald consisted of a hamburger, small fries, and a small sundae. The aim of the Menu Ronald was to help moms easily order something for their kids. McDonald's management heard about the Menu Ronald, and they loved it. Through some brainstorming, they thought if kids got their own meal, instead of eating off of what their parents got, everyone would be happier. As they thought back to the games and fun things printed on cereal boxes that kids would look at while they ate their cereal, they turned that into what these meals would be packaged in. A cardboard box design with 2 arches at the top to serve as a handle, along with adding jokes, stories, comics, and games to the printing on the boxes. The food items in the box, along with a small drink, would be a hamburger, small fries, a packet of cookies, and a surprise gift. The man in charge of developing it all was Bob Bernstein, and he called it the Happy Meal. And the Happy Meal was first introduced in the Kansas City market October 1977. And later on, the Happy Meal hit nationally in the United States in 1979. The original Happy Meal toys available in 1979 were the McDoodle stencil, a McWrist wallet, an ID bracelet, a puzzle lock, a spinning top, or a McDonaldland character eraser. Also in 1979, menus in Braille are introduced. And in 1980, the 6,000th McDonald's restaurant opens in Munich, Germany. And at the beginning of the decade in 1980, people's tastes were changing and they were wanting to eat more healthy alternatives. So McDonald's then introduced the McChicken. It sold poorly its first go-around and was discontinued shortly after. The McChicken presently is a bit smaller than it was originally, and it's now a part of the dollar menu. In 1981, after the failure of the McChicken sandwich, Chicken McNuggets were introduced into select areas to test market out. The Chicken McNuggets recipe was first created in 1979 by McDonald's executive chef Rene Arend, as he took boneless chicken meat that's fried in batter and then flash froze it. So in 1981, when the McNuggets first came out, everybody loved them so much that other franchises wanted the McNuggets. But the system they were using didn't supply enough chicken to provide for all of the franchises. So a couple years later, the chicken supply was fixed, and the Chicken McNuggets made its national U.S. debut in 1983. And fun fact, McDonald's states that McNuggets come in 4 different shapes: the bell, the bow tie, the ball, and the boot. The reasons for these shapes are for food cooking consistency and food safety, and they were also chosen for a balance of dippability and fun. So since the McNugget shortage was happening and other franchises wanted a new menu item, Rene Arend thought of the McRib. It's a rib-shaped pork patty smothered in barbecue sauce, onions, and pickles, and being served on a 5.5-inch roll. The McRib was first test marketed in the Midwest, and it did really well. Then after testing did well, it went national, and then sales were poor, and by 1985 it was removed from the menu. The McRib is popular in Germany, as it's a permanent item on the menu there, but almost everywhere else the McRib has come back for limited times throughout the years, being reintroduced in 1989, up until the present, where it usually now appears during the fall season. On January 14th, 1984, at the age of 81 years old, Ray Kroc passed away from heart failure and was buried in San Diego, California. Ray Kroc spent his final years confined to a wheelchair, but still made it to the McDonald's office in San Diego almost every day. He never stopped working for McDonald's. His wife Joan went on to donate a lot of his fortune. At the time of Ray Kroc's death, his personal fortune was estimated to be at $500 million, but Joan gained way more after the fact, as McDonald's continued to grow. She continued to be charitable, and most notably, she had in her will to leave $1.6 billion to be donated to the Salvation Army and $225 million to National Public Radio. On November 30th, 1984, Dick McDonald, the first cook behind the grill of a McDonald's, was served the ceremonial 50 billionth McDonald's hamburger. In 1986, the 100th Ronald McDonald House was opened. In 1987, the first promotional McDonald's Monopoly game was ran. 1992, the first McDonald's in Africa and the Arab world opens in Casablanca, Morocco. 1993, the first McDonald's in the Middle East opens in Israel. In Melbourne, Australia, the McCafe is debuted. The McCafe is a subsidiary of McDonald's, and it was created to bring an atmosphere and also to create foot traffic at the entrance, as the Melbourne location had a really long distance between the entrance and the counter. In 1994 came the famous hot coffee case. As it went to trial, the hot coffee case was a lawsuit that Stella Liebeck, a 79-year-old woman, had against McDonald's when in 1992 she ordered a coffee from McDonald's and accidentally spilled it on her lap, making her suffer third-degree burns and having her wind up in the hospital for 8 days as she underwent skin grafting procedures. Liebeck's attorney argued that McDonald's coffee being served at 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit was defective and too hot compared to other places that served coffee. This sparked a lot of controversy, as people said that it's not the company's fault if someone spills coffee on themselves. A spokesman for the National Coffee Association said that the temperature of the McDonald's coffee conformed to the industry standards, and even more so when coffees at other places like Burger King and Starbucks were looked at, they had higher temperatures than McDonald's. Prior to going to court, McDonald's refused to settle. So Liebeck, seeking $160,000 for medical expenses and compensation and $2.7 million in punitive damages, the jury decided that the hot coffee warning on the coffee cups was not large enough. The judge wound up lowering the verdict and awarded Stella Liebeck with $64,000. Both McDonald's and Liebeck then settled for a confidential amount before it went to appeals. In 1996, to appeal to the adult audience with some more sophistication, McDonald's attempted to expand a new sandwich, the Arch Deluxe. The Arch Deluxe was called the burger with the grown-up taste, as it was a 1/4 pound of beef on a split-top potato flour sesame seed bun, topped with a circular piece of peppered bacon, leaf lettuce, tomato, American cheese, onions, ketchup, and a secret mustard and mayonnaise sauce. It was first test marketed in October 1995 in McDonald's restaurants in Canada, and then it officially released in May 1996 with an expensive advertising campaign. Due to its certain style of commercials, the high calories, and the price of the sandwich going over $2 a piece, the Arch Deluxe flopped hard, as McDonald's spent over $300 million in research, production, and marketing. In 1997, we saw the McFlurry. It was invented by a franchisee in Canada in 1995. The McFlurry was first test marketed in Hawaii, and then it became an international sensation. The McFlurry is whipped vanilla McDonald's soft serve ice cream in a cup, mixed with a variety of candies, cookies, or toppings, and served with a plastic spoon that is also used during the making of the McFlurry, serving as a blender blade to mix the ingredients. In 1998, Dick McDonald passed away, leaving behind a $1.8 million estate. By the end of Dick's life, he looked back fondly and warmly about the whole situation with Ray, almost considering Ray Kroc a friend, not regretting at all missing out on the fortune Ray made. Dick learned not to let things get to him, and it was for the better. 2002, McDonald's posts its first quarterly loss in history at $344 million. With this new low in the stock price, McDonald's started messing around with new ideas on how to revamp the brands in the stores, so they started out by testing a new store idea. So in October of that year, McDonald's opened one of 2 of its corporate stores in Lincoln, Nebraska, to test the 3-in-1 McDonald's concept. The McDonald's 3-in-1 had a sandwich and platter dining area, a bakery and ice cream area with gourmet coffees, and a traditional McDonald's restaurant rolled into one. At first, the idea of the 3-in-1 McDonald's was doing okay. Then April 2003, the second 3-in-1 McDonald's was opened. So even though the 3-in-1 menu offered things like meatloaf and turkey with gravy, along with cinnamon rolls and ice cream sundaes, most people just went to the regular McDonald's section to get Big Macs and fries. So with that, the 3-in-1 McDonald's restaurant concept was killed off. McDonald's then started to promote a more healthier and high-quality image, introducing premium salads, McGriddles, and chicken selects. McDonald's comes out with its new slogan, "I'm loving it." In 2004 came a documentary film by Morgan Spurlock, who eats nothing but McDonald's for 30 days to show the effects the food has on his body. The movie was called Super Size Me, in which after this movie came out, McDonald's dropped the super size options from their menu. 2005, Ronald McDonald gets a more fit and sporty look, and McDonald's opens a Wi-Fi service for the Nintendo DS video game system, and McDonald's in Singapore started the McDelivery service, where customers could order food over the phone and get it delivered to them wherever they are, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In 2006, McDonald's announced that by March of 2006, they will have nutritional information of all of their food on its packaging, and that the menu would push for more healthier options, such as salads and chicken. Along with this fresh food push came a redesigning of their restaurants called Forever Young. And seeing that the McDonald's last redesign was almost 40 years prior in 1969, McDonald's was in a bad need of a new look, building-wise. A lot of people argued, though, that the brown mansard roofs was part of McDonald's brand. But spokespeople for McDonald's stated that the renovation of McDonald's restaurants was an investment that needed to be done in order to keep business going for the next 50 years. In the late 90s, McDonald's urged its franchisees to paint the brown roofs red and yellow as a form of a band-aid to keep the buildings looking new and fresh. But by 2006, a whole new renovation needed to be done. With these Forever Young renovations, it would turn McDonald's to look much like how a standalone Starbucks coffee shop would look. And for the most part, the renovations and redesign was all for the better. In 2007, McDonald's put out a 42-ounce super-sized soda under a new name called Hugo. 2009, McDonald's debuts 3 different Angus burgers, the Angus Deluxe, the Angus Bacon and Cheese, and the Angus Mushroom and Swiss. In 2010, McDonald's debuts its fruit and maple oatmeal to its menu. 2012, McDonald's starts posting the calories of each of their products on menus and in their drive-thrus. In 2015, McDonald's in the United States started its all-day breakfast menu, where customers could order breakfast items any time of the day and not just in the morning anymore. In 2016, the film The Founder, based on Ray Kroc's book Grinding It Out, starring Michael Keaton as Ray Kroc, is premiered, and it hit theaters nationally in the United States on January 20th, 2017. 2018, in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Big Mac, a new sandwich called the Grand Mac was available for a limited time. The Grand Mac was a Big Mac, but just larger, with 1/3 pound of beef. 2019, McDonald's opens the McHive. Located in Sweden, it's the world's smallest McDonald's. It's scaled down to exact specifications for bees to have a hive in. The McHive was made to bring attention to save the bees around the world that have been dying off to various amounts of factors. The McHive represented the many McDonald's restaurants in Sweden who put beehives on their roofs and wildflowers in the garden areas of the restaurant in efforts to save the bees. The McHive wound up being sold at an auction for $10,000, where the proceeds went to the Ronald McDonald House. As McDonald's has gone from a small barbecue stand in California to a small company swimming deeply in debt, to a massive boom going worldwide, the familiar and great tastes of food from McDonald's is here to stay and bring more tastier things for the future.
Hi, can I help you?
Yeah, hi. Could I just order 1 triple cheeseburger, please?
Hi, 1 triple cheeseburger?
Yes, ma'am.
For breakfast or no?
All right, thank you. So now we are officially at the end of the documentary. It is late November 2021, and you and I both deserve something after this. And now you may be asking yourself, what about the McDLT? What about, like, the Fish McBites? What about the McPizza? What about all these other things? The pies, all the different dipping sauces?
I never heard of
I just want
McPizza.
you to know that There's going to be a lot of surprises coming very
Well,
soon.
was there a Big
This
Mac?
only really covered the history of McDonald's. There's so much more
Because that's
that
what
we can
I'm
get into.
painting.
You're
Here's
painting
to
a Big Mac.
Maurice and Richard
Yeah,
McDonald.
it's a
More
global
importantly,
icon.
Ray Kroc.
So we're
I'm
making a
going to
bronze
have my
Big
favorite
Mac.
thing off the menu, which is a triple cheeseburger.
Is that okay?
And,
I just felt like doing a Big Mac.
Yeah.
here's to you guys, Dick, Mac McDonald.
Big
Ray
Mac's on
Kroc.
sale too for $6 actually.
Cheers.
So are quarter pounders.
That is amazing.
We are
Mm.
warriors of good, of truth. We are love. And
Eat the rest of this later. Forgot to get a Coke or something to drink. So to everyone watching this and has enjoyed the documentary and everything, thanks for watching. This took a lot of time and effort
Those are
and
Mindy's list of warriors from
just
back
a lot of energy
2000
and collecting things, getting all the materials together
All the
to
Thomas
make this whole thing
Scrolls.
possible. I read books on this. I did plenty of online
Man, it's
research.
so fun to go back
I
to
made
all
sure
this
everything
old
was
crap.
correct. Okay, why is this car stopped right here?
Interesting.
Okay.
I just find it funny that
I hope this documentary was very informative to you and it helped you on your studies, or it was just entertaining, something for you to watch late at night and you're trying to fall asleep. Whatever the case, thank you guys for watching, and that's it. I'm DJ Glowing Ice. Bye-bye.
That's the difference in that case. Oh my goodness, these people are hilarious. Marsha Stockton again. Marsha. She's jumping in on mind-inspired shit. Did Cherie pay for gas when Manny drove halfway across the country from Reno area to South Bend area to talk to Jesse Davis about a puppy? Did she go with him?
Curious minds will have them wanting to know.
That's fucking hilarious. Oh, Marsha.
Oh, I need more coffee for this. Oh, Zoe, really? Really?
Now I know why people drink and smoke weed. Now I know why people drink and smoke weed. Because these people are retarded.
I'm putting a lot into this bronze Big Mac. Just so you know.
Interesting. Someone in Germany reported this tweet. Twitter decided it does not violate German law. Know anybody in Germany or a sock account anchored in Germany? Huh. What tweet? What tweet? Beth Bogo chose Manuel Chavez, DeFango, and Jesse Davis as her witnesses when she committed criminal perjury in Los Angeles court. She sued Trevor Fitzgibbons and paid Arturo. Oh, that's the tweet they fucking reported. Somebody in Germany reported it. And they said, hello, Twitter is required by German law to provide notice to users who are reported by people from Germany via the Network Enforcement Act reporting flow. We received a complaint for the following content from your account. We have investigated the reported content and have found that it is now subject to removal under Twitter rules or German law. Of course it got reported, because you're an idiot. Thomas is preparing a massive lawsuit in which Marsha Stockton's going to be the star witness and come in and claim she was stalked and doxxed and harassed, yet she wasn't doxxed. And interesting, I should say. Very interesting. The poor woman perjured herself in her declaration. Morons. Guess I might have to do a stream tonight and
There you go.
call them all out.
Momo, were you upstairs?
Probably. Oh no, Thomas is tweeting his stupidity again. When I refrain from mentioning names, you know it's very bad. If Mindy showed poor judgment and trust in these creeps, then I bear much more responsibility. I wanted to believe them as well, and I was the first responder. I feel horrible seeing Mindy attacked like this. Mindy has my personal apologies. Yeah, right, Thomas. She should have your apologies. You've been the one feeding her shit for years, making her attack people for no reason. He should apologize.
Oh wait, there's another video I want to play. I want to listen to Science Channel. Military aircraft experiment spotted at Chicago O'Hare. Okay.
What happened to Terminal Number 4? Does it still exist as a secret terminal for stealth aircraft?
Since then, strange events have been reported in the sky above the airport.
So there was an incident at the Chicago O'Hare Airport. There were people outside who saw some type of craft, and some say it was a slow spinning disc.
People are reporting this large object. The thing is, you've got a lot of pilots around, so if pilots are seeing things that they cannot explain, then you need to pay attention.
They said they saw it hover for a few minutes, then it shot off and punched a hole in the sky.
A bizarre object spotted over one of the busiest skies in America should have been cause for alarm. But officials of the Federal Aviation Administration insisted no investigation was needed. The multiple experienced aircrew who reported it were told that they had merely misidentified normal weather phenomena.
Now this just raises a lot of questions. Was it because that this object could actually have been some sort of top secret stealth aircraft that the military was working on?
Theoretical physicist Michio Kaku wonders if the object in the clip could be part of a cutting-edge military experiment.
This thing looks like it's being held up by a rope of some sort. There is the offbeat possibility that maybe the craft that holds everything up is invisible.
The U.S. military has invested in actual cloaking technology, which would render an aircraft essentially invisible.
Scientists have been experimenting with cloaking technology in which light bends around a unique reflective shield, concealing the object behind it.
Scientists have developed a sort of invisibility skin made of gold. Basically, what it does is refracts the light in a way that renders this object invisible to a human observer.
The U.S. military could be testing highly dangerous aircraft in areas that are highly populated across the United States.
The U.S. government has performed secret military experiments on American towns and cities, their populations used as unwitting human guinea pigs. In the 1960s, the military covertly released the bacteria Bacillus subtilis into subway stations in Chicago and New York.
Oh my.
The passengers were unsuspecting lab rats.
The Army secretly released this bacteria to test the vulnerability of passengers in the event of a biological attack.
We're attacked by our own country. Isn't that lovely?
You followed me as cybernostic before. Do you have any of these?
You got me to mute?
No, you don't have to.
Denise, another one?
No, Detective Gomez
And she continues to
is
engage.
live. Denise
And
Mataw-Zombie is
pleasure out of
gaslighting
engaging
law
with them.
enforcement and
Might say I'm doing
OGAs
that, but I'm
again.
not. I think about them. I don't engage with them. The one time I had a conversation with that piece of filth, Jesse Davis, was when I was testing his to be a believer. And of course he's a believer.
She was testing me.
Testing.
Last night she called you a pervert, and I'm worse than a street hooker. Or wait, she said honest street hooker, whatever that means.
Cult activist, and alongside him his pal.
Cult activist.
Making claims that are absolutely absurd, piling on. I tried to correct. The one claim.
Hey, doesn't sometimes the most absurd claim, sometimes doesn't that come true? Because we are dealing with the most absurd here. The Aquino shit, the way it's double twisted reverse. Saying I'm like the satanic.
Is that a clip added in, or is somebody saying that?
That's Gomez.
There's been more contact with
He's
the other
playing
side with
bullshit.
all these other people for some reason.
I don't have his channel.
They're double twisted, taxpayer wasted bullshit lark.
He was speaking about that woman Sugarshine who doxed her own son. And it was very time I did.
So what if she put her son's location and that was it? The state, that was it. That's what I got. That's from the evidence that's been collected. Is Miss Sugarshine says her son was in the Coast Guard in a certain state, and she's a proud Coast Guard mama and daughter of a Coast Guard man. If you can't do that without them saying you doxed your family and get harassed by that because of that, now we got.
Involved with the Fort Neches crap.
Oh.
And she put her own son's Coast Guard.
The Fort Neches crap. So it just got downgraded from a catastrophe to a piece of crap.
Assignments, training, and career information in an open chat with the Aquino coach. Yeah. And yes, Thomas Schoenberger was part of that. That was part of his coming, you might say, his awakening, his coming to send
Oh,
his
Lord. Oh, Lord. Why haven't I heard this one?
And he stepped away from it. But he didn't step away from all the people. Even Mindy, Mind Inspired, she does not understand what she's doing, because that mentality of savior female, the female rescuer, the sensitive empath, all that crap, that's commonplace in American culture. And fully responsible when they're simply acting out a role that they have been brainwashed into playing.
Wait, are you...
I think any responsible...
Did she just say Thomas brainwashed him?
Brainwashed who?
Mind Inspired and all these people?
Oh, really?
It seems as though my town
Is she telling a little truth?
Brainwashed shit, in my opinion. Can I say that? Is that all right? About being surrounded by helicopters and tanks and B-52s and shit? MRAP. That's what they're pushing for by tagging all of these OGA and governmental agencies.
Adult would have known it was crossing the line to even attempt to contact the Davis's daughter. You notice I never named that daughter? I never give anything other than the fact that they have a daughter that they use as bait in their grifter games.
Their grifter games. Aren't they the ones grifting for their Muppet crypt in the day blank? Oh, there you go. Yeah, drop it out. Oh, man. That was a good one. Oh, I can't wait to make a video out of all this. We'll schedule it down the road. I'll get it all right.
The only way people know who she is because they're using her as bait. People have to seek it out to find out who she is. Mind-inspired as a responsible adult with children of her own should never have made that attempt. But she did make the attempt, and now Jesse Davis uses it over and over again to torture her. Just the same way this cult tortures that woman, Rebecca Dean. They find vulnerable females.
Oh, yeah.
They can.
There you go, white knighting for Becky Dean, the woman that stands alone, that this weird connection from the get-go. They needed their controlled opposition, their piece of bait.
Well, when I do stream, I'm gonna roll out the red carpet for Mind Inspired, Marcia Stockton,
there you go.
Old Tommy Boy Meatloaf, and all of them. Hey, you want to come on? You want to bring your shit up? Bring your fucking goods, and let's hash this out once and for all. Let's end this. That's what they keep wanting to say. They want to end this, especially Mind Inspired. So, you want to end this shit?
Prove it.
Bring your happy fucking ass up here, and let's discuss it. And bring your receipts, because I'm bringing mine.
Murderous cult. If you look into the religious theology, Aaron B. Cox is a good place to start, because that guy's got a twisted,
bring your goods, motherfuckers.
Weird, creepy, satanic philosophy.
That's like everything I'm against. When you're walking with Jesus, it's another walk that they got to twist around when you're under their radar and thumbtack.
That's great.
This Luciferian cult that's double twisting is they're the good guys.
Yeah, they're the good guys.
That is laughable until you start to notice that everything about his so-called religious stuff and the groups he's been involved with dovetails.
Dovetails! Let's see, we're going to get some good samples out of this. I haven't sought to be part of any groups. When there's like-minded artists and people that get past the religious enslavement, I'll put it that way in my opinion, and surpass into a spiritual order on a different wavelength, right? And then all of a sudden you're watching each other's videos online because, wow, like-minded individuals approve each other's, well, that's a gang in Matt Calville, in Muffinville. It's a gang.
Scam.
With the fringe Mormons, the LeBaron Mormons, who are a murderous cult, heavily involved in American politics, Mitt Romney,
Oh
Mitt
my.
Romney, and I blasted on Mitt Romney before.
Eddie,
Yes.
Thomas tweeted, I don't know, a little bit ago, to some account on his at PAA Asile. I owe you a thank you for speaking out against disinformation. Cheers, and I'm grateful.
Who's
Thomas.
that to?
Some account called PAA Asile, and their account says U.S. citizen, former UN officer in Geneva, French asylum case, FISA warrant for literally no reason, blah, blah, whatever. So anyway, he thanks them for speaking out against disinformation. I'm grateful, Thomas. And the person responds, if you are the Thomas that I think you are, I actually don't know you. I've never spoken out in any fashion, in any capacity that's touched your life that I'm aware of.
Wow.
Thomas responds, true statement. You spoke out against a paper from Michigan State University when it was published. I appreciated your candor. The white paper on QAnon blamed me specifically and also falsely claimed I was a leader of a fascist cult, the I Am cult founded by Guy Ballard. So he's just trying to use his fucking wooing to suck this
Now, who
person's-
said what about the cult again? Who?
Thomas posted and thanked this guy for speaking out against disinformation and said, cheers, I'm grateful, as if this guy spoke out on Thomas'
Right.
behalf. The guy said, I didn't speak out on your behalf. I've never said anything that touched your life. Thomas says he spoke out against a Michigan State University paper, which was Dilly's paper. You spoke out against the Michigan paper. I appreciated your candor. The white paper on QAnon blamed me and also falsely claimed I was a leader of a cult, the I Am cult. So he's trying to suck this person into his shit. It's so funny to watch him work.
Because that's what we're going to ask questions. And I knew who the woman was that showed up in Boston and spent time in his presence before he was found dead. The state police know that too. They have their own reasons, and they're not good reasons, for cooperating with the cover-ups around this cult.
Cover-ups.
One of those names that never gets mentioned when you go listening to some of their live streams and all their little infighting, play fighting, cult lark crap. They never talk about Roy Potter.
Oh my gosh, she brought up the godfather of the LARP of the Sister Wives LARP cult out of Colorado City, Arizona. Oh man, you don't put godfather LARP on blast there, Denise. That's our LARP leader. Oh man. Woo! You're crossing lines there. Unjust me. Woo! Buddy. The sister told that said, hey, take the brother out there too tonight. Everybody sit back. You're gonna lock down the com on this point. And just because fishing in the area don't mean I'm drinking the water.
Roy Potter is a colleague of Monograph. Roy Potter wrote a book defending the theology LeBaron Mormons, of which he is one, the Fringe Mormons, with the child bride polygamy practice.
Yeah, I don't think they practice it, but I think Roy Potter actually did it back in the to constitute a limit of freedom of religion. And they almost did it as a LARP, and that's what I found, which is really interesting. The Godfather of LARP. You bow. You bow to King Potter. Oh man, and Cox is just LARPing because you know what I'm telling you. Just because you go fishing in their territory don't mean you're drinking the water when you stay at the hotel as a tourist. There's some dang good fishing up in them southern hills.
He lost his job as a police officer because the police department, which was in one of those cult-controlled towns, said they could look the other way as long as he did what all the others did, which was pretend that all their secondary wives were girlfriends.
Oh, that's an interesting way around it for anybody that's looking into that. I think it's been a constitutional battle for a long time. But hey, in a country of freedom of religion, I mean, I'm not saying do it. I'm saying, hey, if you really want to push your constitutional limits, there's some commune you can go to in the southern hills, them Utardians. But hey, you know, all that shit's associated with some real nasty stuff. I get it, and that's why we got the LARP Sister Wives cult going up in Southern Hills. New Cardia land. It's their own flight. We've got our own flights. Right out of Knab. And we go into Moscow. Not interesting. Up to Moscow, Idaho, and then over to Moab. We've got 2 flights so far. You can't LARP like that on the internet without being called a terrorist. Right? And all of a sudden you're associated. Oh, I bet Cox was involved somehow with that, with them college students. See? No, man. I haven't left the house in months. Been working on my own projects. It's been great.
Whole bunch of spam.
After almost like, let's say, doing a homeless stint there for a while, it's kind of nice to have a home for a minute.
Oh shit, I lost my cherry. Oh.
But writing a book and going public to defend the child bride practice was not to be tolerated. So we're talking obviously here. And we keep finding saying we knew it.
Is she's weaponizing that new age. We've done some deep dropped it out.
I don't get
And
it.
has been weaponizing sex offenders in their big LARP.
How Facebook cannot manage these spammers.
Clams and they hit it.
And allow all this spam to be posted all over people's pages.
You can do the research into Bentino Massaro. That's some new age shit.
New age shit.
Running through it.
New age shit is all these elderly
Same
fucks sitting around on freaking
Conflation
social
of
media
patriotic emotions,
trying to become stars, apparently.
some kind of anarchy that is the opposite of anarchy. Because what these people try to do to everybody else is certainly not the laissez-faire attitude of a true anarchist.
What is she talking about? You're an
Aaron V.
anarchist.
Cox is just
Spit it out.
unspeakably ignorant.
Unspeakably ignorant.
He knows he's playing jokes.
Unspeakably.
His life is a joke. He thinks it's a joke. To play the games he plays with lies. A lot of people hate him because it seems to somehow up in the file where failure comes into all of this over and over again. And it's hard.
Well, that's interesting when she doesn't put on blast Mr. News Now Houston, the rodent, and Mr. Connors, that they've weaponized in their big lark to try to associate and entrap people. So little shitbags like the Thelomons, the North Sac maniacs, and the one who ran away. Isn't that interesting? Well, we don't want to see Mr. Connors end up being part of that big old ooting in Las Vegas, working for Mr. Jason Aldean, right? As we the people, infiltration like that, where you guys have used these sex offenders, that's not a good thing, right? You don't want people figuring that out. All of a sudden, you're part of a death cult, right?
And it's hard to sort through it. Because everybody has an emotional reaction to the subject. And they've used people like Thomas Schoenberger to spread the name pedophile, the epithet pedophile, around irresponsibly. The man is autistic. He has the emotional level of a fourth grader when it comes.
What is he doing black ops shit? Why are they using these people as cannon fodder? That people can see through and go, wait a minute, you're wasting our taxpayer dollars. Are you sending the people chew toys? Is that what you're really doing? You're wasting taxpayer dollars with doing these operations and using these half-wits.
When it comes to understanding human relations. Mind-inspired is probably the same. But they are not involved in the activities the way that Aaron V. Cox, Jesse Davis, Pavard Davis, and these other monsters. Aaron V. Cox was involved in some kind of propaganda operation, got some kind of training in the Coast Guard, whether it was legitimately part of his mission, whatever his position was, or whether he simply took advantage of the training materials that was available in the military, that's also available to anybody who wants to look it up. All kinds of psychological warfare materials available on the open market these days. And Aaron V. Cox likes to use his background in the Coast Guard to try to pretend he's an honorable character. The only truth in what he claimed I said about him was that I called him a cocksucker. Yes, I did, and I still do.
She said
his buddy was
cocksucker.
down here taking camera film, zooming in, drew a lights of peeking onto the Naval Air Station down here, the Navy Air Force.
I think she said the Naval Air Force.
Training base. Aaron V. Cox likes to
All right, we gotta stop it there. interesting how I don't even know who I'm associated with. I think she's mentioned authority check in the past, where when she started mentioning authority check and referring to this person, that he was my buddy and I didn't even know who he was the first time. That's how I looked up and found the shit show. But she won't talk about their main key player there, the main big cop stalker, News Now Houston, that was prosecuted recently, convicted. She's not going to mention that guy for some reason, because that's her camp. That's one of their star little pedos to go out and associate with somebody like authority check. Like getting the rodent to go out and cop watch with 303 and Bird. There's a lot of patterning going on, right? To get people around even Mr. Connors and start doing karaoke and shows with that guy. So all of a sudden have Mr. Sentinel Spitfire do a suicide lark for him. This is all out of their camp. Then the way the damage control had to go between them all. Isn't that interesting? And look how it does start in her neck of the woods. Corpus Christi in Houston. Oh, here we go.
Likes to pretend that he's all about fighting police corruption. But his friend was down here taking video recordings and publishing video recordings of private citizens' license plates to identify who has business going on and off the Naval Air Station base. That was not too long before the Fort Neches explosions, which involved a chemical tank, not fuel. And no one ever said they involved fuel. Aaron Cox now, he's saying it. He's putting that in it.
That's what I gathered. It was a coupler off of the main tank fuel line, something, and it went. Something in that, and it wasn't a chemical, it was propane. There was press releases from the mayor. I don't know what she's trying to twist around all that. I mean, if it was chemicals, oh my gosh, it shouldn't have exploded like it did.
Putting that narrative out. And Aaron Cox did say it was a drill. What was it a drill for?
She won't even release her own footage of me coming on there and saying it ended up being a drill. It was a drill afterwards. The explosion ensued, the drill kicks in, people are for the invasion. Hilarious. You guys should be rolling, laughing, loving this stuff, right? You get a ha-ha and Mr.
These
Cox.
people are 100% satanic, 100% evil, 100% dangerous. And I hate the fact that I feel compelled to even address them, but I have to set the record straight. They're obscene, they're disgusting, I have more respect for an honest whore in the street than I do for Pavana Davis.
That's bullshit.
She and her husband playing a pimp grifter game.
Grifter game. Wow, that's a good one, Tom.
And Aaron V. Cox waging personal on American people, the American.
Going out in the streets with an airsoft gun and going, hey, Doc. Or maybe I'm doing that on the internet. Hey, I'm about to release a video, and Yaxley's like running for his foxhole, grabbing his M4, going, okay, all right, we're ready, Cox. Is that waging war? don't have
American society. There's no word in the English language that expresses contempt to describe people. A few of them live in California. And I'm hoping when I look at the scenes of horror that's out there now, I'm hoping I'm looking at least a few of their addresses. I wish some of those scenes would hit Indiana.
Wow.
It's not very nice.
She wants us to be wiped off the map.
It would be nice if there's another cyclone that hits that part of the country. It's disgusting.
You're
These
disgusting.
people devote their time. Well, 20 minutes of my time this week is more than they deserve to have. But it is disgusting. And someone does have to speak about it. There is never an excuse. Feel sorry for the Davis's daughter being used as bait, having been raised to put herself.
Wow.
Putting young kids out there for the porn industry, for media, good friends with the Monograph, and one thing I did not miss, and I will put it out now and let the chips they may, I have liked Ross. I've tried recently to be polite to him. I've tried to be polite to all these people.
Right.
Because I think the truth about what they all did to Thomas Schoenberger.
Oh, what?
And the tragic
Everybody did
reality
to
of
Thomas
what that means.
Schoenberger.
It's going.
He's been getting clowned. Since he lost the case with GH, he's been getting clowned, dude. And if you're taking dirty pedo loot money from politicians to shut people up, and gotta use Jason and others like China, shitbags like that, dude.
It's going to come out. Titus Frost gave a friendly, respectful shout out to Monograph when he was on Terry Joyce's interview show. The one where he appeared with Marcia Stockton and Mind Inspired. He referred to Monograph as a professional deserving of respect. Well, not his exact words. I know he used the word professional and some kind of word indicating respect. And it sounded like it was totally out of context, totally off topic, but it was an identifiable flag of fealty, loyalty within that cult. It's a big, all-encompassing,
It's a big club and you ain't in it.
and these people engage in such deliberate lies on top of lies on top of lies. There's no, I mean, I wish there were an instruction manual for dealing with them,
God damn it.
but we don't seem to have a way of dealing with them. I'm just acting out of pure faith.
Hello.
Picking up.
You what?
Know how to do.
Oh.
Oh. Well, I've got 5 things going on. So, I have a question. Yeah. So,
I need more coffee.
Admitting in a video live stream yesterday that he, the gang that I've referred to as the trailer park, the cop stalkers, the port terrorists, basically though, Aaron Cox, Sugar Shine, Dave Acton, and a few of their supporting characters. He admits they were responsible for putting it. Yeah, he's still running around loose.
I bet you I was home sitting in my hot tub that day. Guarantee it.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe my favorite fishing hole. Probably not. Probably at home. Can be accounted for. They got us on GPS, all of us. We can't admit it. Okay, go to another pond and data mine there.
The reason I'm asking because this
You're trying to data mine from actually smart people here.
What do they call themselves?
Where's the ones here?
They call themselves
You're trying to sell and data mine and make money off of your muffin crypto.
Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. We're back over here.
Well.
What's Shadow Watch got to do with this? I started to say, I titled the video, Shadow Watch.
Because they were hitting me up
For that.
for
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Let's catch the beginning of
I
that
was
again.
talking about Aaron Cox, the Coast Guard veteran, admitting in a video live stream yesterday that he and the gang that I've referred to as the trailer park, the cop stalkers, the port terrorists, basically though, Aaron Cox, Sugar Shine, Dave Acton, and a few of their supporting characters.
Well, that's kind of what I'm wondering because
they were responsible for
like I
putting
said, they just popped into my DM out of
running
nowhere,
around loose.
asking for me, I would appreciate
Around,
it.
oh my Cox is running wild on the internet. It's wildfire.
This time when that Goose account, who has definitely been in Camp
And if
Thomas,
people are angry at me for the things I just said about the people who continue to play games,
and myself and
Frost is a
answers on a bunch of shit last night.
still
And they were like, oh,
in that circle around Thomas Homer there are actors.
Guess what happens in the Muffin Crew when you're being booted out? Well, then all of a sudden you're blamed like you're on the other side. Okay, that's what I saw with Mr. Frost, is they were using him, whether or not he went along with it. And then all of a sudden, you get booted out. Right?
Well,
I don't know. That's not my realm of research, is exactly who the cannon fodder is. If they appear weak point to you. You think it.
So today I took the time to dig back all the way to, what, I think 2021?
Seems as though even the guy Neo might have some weird ties there to the Muffin Crew, the Muffin Man.
And Hollywood producers. Thomas was born into that world. It's not his fault. And most of them probably were as well. Titus Frost thinks that Monograph is a respectable professional. Yes, he's a professional porn producer who caters to the pedophile market with child pornography by using adult actresses who look like children. That's respectable? Everyone made fun of Titus Frost's over-the-top histrionic performances when he played his Pizzagate game. Now Jolly, Bridgeburner, and Lee Veltman are coming back out, putting their channel back up.
Well, it sounds like some promotion to me.
Lee Veltman is another Aaron V. Cox. Does the same stuff.
It's going to be an interesting stream.
And it's partly his mental illness.
They got to associate like that together, because one person has the creativity, the other is just the leech, like Koichi.
His parents had a damn good reason for putting him in that teen rehab center. It's not their fault that they didn't know, or maybe they did know. I don't know what kind of family he comes from. But they had to have a reason for putting him in that rehab center in the first place. And when you listen to him put together his word salads, deliberately confuse things and misrepresent things. I have spoken about the Boston Mafia, which is very identifiable.
I know.
Okay?
That's the one good thing about
always book about Whitey Bulger.
And
The history of the Mafia in
I don't
Boston.
have to remember what I said.
Study the history around the Kennedys and their rise to power.
Unlike Thomas and all these idiots,
Look at the politics
my
around
story
Martha's
about
Vineyard
what happened to my
and ask
family is
yourself,
never fucking
why
changed.
does the
It's never
American
gonna
political
change.
mafia need an
It
island
is
off the coast
factual,
of Massachusetts?
Exactly what happened. I have all the evidence I need to prove it. I'm like,
While they
it's really
have
nice when you don't have to remember
another
a lie that you told, you know,
with a
which is their problem. They don't remember what the fuck they say from one time to the next, you know.
the Fringe Mormons.
So,
And Mitt Romney was definitely in the background of the rise to power around Donald Trump. I voted for Donald Trump before, and if he were to run for office again, I would probably vote for him again.
well, I found it rather
Because
interesting
politically,
that Thomas jumped in with my inspired.
he offers the best chance that I can see of us getting back to any level of normalcy, but I know that we would do it in spite of some of his shortcomings as well.
2017 and 2018.
We don't elect political leaders because they are angels. We elect them because they are likely to get a job done that we want to see done.
Mine expired, fucked up, and didn't redact the email address, by the way. But, you
So
know,
look-
we're not gonna fucking worry about it. But I called Thomas out, I'm like,
These
hey,
threads,
wait a minute.
this Mormon thread that runs through Roy Potter, Pete Santilli,
2017-18.
doomsday murderous cult around the Davises,
Number
the
one,
gay
your
crap,
emails were hacked,
the
and you
Boston
didn't have
Mafia,
to
and then you've got Lee
was
Veltman
hacked and fried.
having
So
hissy
therefore,
fits
you
because
couldn't provide the
somebody in his little LARPer community was making jokes about some LSD experiment at Boston University, which had absolutely nothing to do with anything I ever said. But because Boston University was apparently accused by some of these other people of having some kind of LSD cult going on, Lee Veltman
Well, that's what I'm saying.
claimed that that's what I was talking about when I spoke about the mafia involved with GE, involved with the murder of my daughter,
I couldn't say anything.
of Captain.
Wait a minute, dude. Where are you coming up with all this shit then?
Neither one of those were officially declared murders when they happened.
Inspired and shit. Just last night, if you're
Because we take
and he's
looking
literally
at that,
said in a tweet.
I said not only were they murders, but they were connected. Steve Hassan is the common thread in both of them. Steve Hassan is also the common thread in this religious crap.
Yeah, well,
Setting up these disgusting military satanic, using military rejects like Aaron B. Cox to hunt and harass people.
The
cop stalkers.
When these motherfuckers put out well over 100 tweets last night in the last
There hasn't ever been any footage released on any of Mr. Cox's channels.
I grabbed them all.
Cop
I have them all. We'll
quote,
discuss
unquote.
them tonight. I grabbed them all. And I'm like, they all come to the rescue of each other. It's fucking crazy.
Of
I mean,
interactions
fucking
that
crazy.
Mr. Cox has had and has recorded, has not been published. There was one publishing when I was surrounded in Las Vegas, and others were surrounding Las Vegas by Department of Homeland Security. That was published. That is not cop stalking. That was trying to have a public press release and filming that. There was a reason why I was running 2 cameras that day. One to keep pointed at the person giving the press release, and one camera just in case we get surrounded. You didn't see regular media getting surrounded at that event in Las Vegas when I went and watched the Bundys defend themselves. That was published, and I'm sure that's partially why my first channel had to go down, because I kept that published for a while. But nobody was really interested in seeing Mr. Cox getting surrounded by DHS at a public press release, huh? Now, if I would have been tased or detained, yeah, there would have been, yeah, right on, Cox got arrested for
I have no idea.
going to a legally lawful press release at the Las Vegas Federal Courthouse. Uh-huh.
What's going on in California right now? There's stuff happening there that is beyond our control.
Right.
And look what just happened
Most likely.
to the FAA or the airplanes. And what's been going on with the power thing.
Yep.
England doesn't surprise anybody who understands
No, I saw some other
Natural
people
law.
chiming in.
and its divine implications. But the rest of it that's going on, the terrorist crap that's going on, that's what we're looking
Well,
at when we're looking at
I'm
people
gonna
like
roll
Andy
out the
Trump.
red carpet to all of them tonight. Mind Inspired, Thomas, Denise, Marcia Stockton, any of these fools, Chris the Gimpy Jones. Hey, the panel's open, guys. We can squeeze like 10 people up there, I believe. And come on down. Let's bring this shit out in the open publicly. Quit hiding behind your blocks and your protected tweets and all that crap. Let's hash it out. Let's have the final showdown. And you bring your fucking goods and your fucking receipts, and I will for sure bring mine. You know.
We're wanting to have a broadcast, a music broadcast, and then all of a sudden, because of my association in the past with an honorable discharge from the Coast Guard, all of a sudden I get brought into these
I'm
styles.
sure the trolls will be there, and you know they'll be talking shit in the chat. But,
That you should be
yeah, I'm gonna invite every one of them. Come on down.
Trying to coordinate.
You're the next
a psychological
contestant
operation to
on Liars and LARPers.
make their grift legal. We're trying to do that. The court case that I played yesterday. Other court cases are going to be coming up. 2023. We're already starting to keep track of it.
Yeah.
We reject
Well,
buddies.
Woo!
And the Indiana
Over the target.
wants to be a cop, warden mentality idiot.
Right.
with his catfish wife.
Right.
Really, there are no words. Disgusting enough.
You bow to the warden of Sewertown, lady.
Yeah, I'm gonna post it up on Twitter. They all pay attention. I'm gonna post it on Twitter. Matter of fact, I gotta run to the bank and shit real quick, and I'll probably come home and throw it up on Twitter so that people have time to see it. I'll pin it.
Of Sewertown.
So.
It's not enough to describe these people in reality. God bless some, have mercy on some, and to hell with the rest. Denise Maxwell.
Oh yeah.
Over and out.
Isn't that amazing?
Squirrel! I thought you were on the phone with Jesse.
Here, I'm going to turn on my camera. Check this out.
Yeah, well.
That's what she tagged right there. All of those agencies. There's the video we just mirrored.
Nah.